So, Robert Pattinson, you think you could pick up the Bat mantle? Pick up the Bat pieces of the Bat franchise? Fix the Batastrophe? Not this Bat time. Not this Bat channel.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ritual Chamber. I am Josh, this is Jeff, and today we are going to be doing hot off the press our review for the Batman.
Batman.
Not just Batman.
Not Batman, not Batman Begins, not Dark Knight.
Not the Dark Knight.
Not Batman Forever, not Batman and Robin.
Yes, just the Batman.
The Batman. Was this the Batman?
Well, why don't you give us your synopsis on this?
I will try. We are fresh out, so this is the first time we've done this where we literally saw a movie, came into the old Ritual Chamber and talked about it.
Yeah.
So synopsis: Batman has been operated in Gotham City for 2 years now, and a conspiracy theorist type threat as the Riddler comes in and starts revealing secrets of the criminal underground and the corruption of the city. And Batman and Jim Gordon, he's not a commissioner yet.
Yeah.
Detective Jim Gordon work to solve his riddles, basically.
Yeah.
And then so much more, which we will talk about.
And I have to say, that was very well done.
It was
hey, ad lib.
Yeah,
You nailed that shit right there. So the Batman. I'm gonna throw this out there. This was not the Batman for me.
Yeah.
I was really surprised about this because obviously we bought tickets in advance. We were kind of unsure about this movie a little bit.
Yeah, we were very much on the we were nervous. They kind of didn't know where it was. For me personally, I was like, I feel like I've seen this movie already before. I mean, this is the seventh Batman movie.
Yeah.
No. Fuck that. That's damn near the 10th Batman movie. Throwing the counter right there. And so, yeah, I felt like I'd seen this movie before. Like, it's just, Batman's, I don't want to say it's a tired franchise, because it's always sort of done well, typically.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Joel Schumacher Batman, I actually enjoy. For what they are.
Yeah, for what they are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for what they
absolutely.
are. Yeah. I mean, come on, I was a kid. I was a kid when they came out. And because I was a kid when those came out, I don't shit on them as much as a lot of people do. I mean, yeah, they're bad, they're cheesy, but I was a kid at the time, and so there's a nostalgia feel for me, and still it's Batman. Maybe a little later we'll do a quick short ranking of Batman.
Yes, that would be great.
Near the end, after our monkeys.
That, yeah.
And then I heard this was getting rave reviews, and I don't think it deserves its Metacritic score at all. I'm not going to shit on it this entire time. I know, yeah, he will.
That's what I'm here for.
I enjoyed it. There's a lot about it I did enjoy. It's just, it definitely didn't deserve its Metacritic score. And the biggest problem, it did not need to be 3 hours long.
And that's, kind of what I was alluding to was the fact that when we got our tickets, I actually didn't know that this movie was going to be that long.
And I know it had been announced, I forgot.
And so it was funny because as we were, coming to see the movie tonight and
talking about filming afterwards.
And there's this unique thing now that when you buy tickets online, it will put it in your schedule depending on how you have everything synced up. And I actually looked and it said 6:20 to 9:20, and I was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "That can't be right." I was like,
"You're like, oh shit, clear your
calendar."
like,
yeah, I was like, the rest of my night is gone completely.
Yeah, here we are.
So I was a little surprised, and then I actually looked up the movie, and the runtime is 2 hours and 59 minutes.
Yeah,
so it was completely accurate. So that being said, I'm going to agree with you completely. This was not the Batman for me, and I don't completely want to shit on this movie because I thought there were some good scenes in this, but overall for me, this was I just did not like this iteration of Batman. I did not enjoy this movie at all.
Yeah, there's a lot I did enjoy about it. How do we feel about Robert Pattinson's Batman? Just not as a movie, but his portrayal of Batman.
I think for me, he was a little bit too, like, weepy. A little too...
but that I get. This was a younger version. He's still, like, I mean, I think it's very well said in the film that he's still on a revenge tip. Like, he's yet to really get his morals down and his...
and there were aspects in the movie that they alluded to, in the fact that he, like, was sleep deprived and things like that. So I kind of got where they were trying to make his character go, but I thought it was it was overdone. It's like...
much of this movie
you put a steak on the grill, and it's like, all right, you don't want it medium rare, that's fine. You want it medium, that's okay. But when it gets to well done, it's like, I can't even eat that shit anymore. So, at this point, there was a point in this movie where I'm like, I get it. Yeah. I get it. You've already alluded to this. We don't need to really talk about it anymore. I understand, the point that you're trying to make with this character. And I just got really tired of it, especially towards the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And I think that with the kind of, I don't know what the DCEU is trying to do right now with the movies, because they continue to, like, we're still going to have the Flash.
We're having Flashpoint,
and we have Aquaman, obviously. So we still have their, what they were doing initially, but then they're throwing out these, making these other movies with these franchise characters that are not necessarily part of the that are part of the DCEU. And
Warner Brothers is fucking up. Is what
100%. 100%. I mean,
Warner Brothers fucked up after Superman or Man of Steel, and then just, hey, we're gonna, like, here's our slate. You have one movie,
and that was the interesting thing in this movie. They did a slate of everything that was coming out, and it's like, you have the Batman, and it's like, well, this doesn't even fall into the canon for the rest of everything that you have on the slate for the year. So, as far as we know, because who knows? Maybe Robert Pattinson will show up as a character in Flashpoint. We don't know that, so we can't speak to that. But I think that with these outside movies that they're doing, the Joker, they did it with the Joker, they did it with the Batman. To me, it's
confusing.
Comic books are art.
Yeah,
they are, right.
No, and you can, to with that point, you could view like the Joker as like an Elseworlds type story.
Yeah, but I think that the problem is like, don't try to make it too artistic. Just at the end of the day, like, comic books are supposed to be fun. There is some grittiness in there. But they're supposed to be, I mean, especially with a character like Batman, I get it. He is like one of the most darkest comic book characters in the history of comic books. Like, as far as like backstory and the kind of the situations that he's dealt with, his storylines. His
rogues gallery is very dark.
Exactly. But like, I felt this tried to prey too much on that, where it just, to me, I just was not a huge fan. I want something to be fun and enjoyable, and this to me was like, it got tired. I mean, it had 3 fucking fight scenes. Like, I'm sorry, like, Batman, like, what they nailed in this movie, his detective aspect, I thought they did that really good.
You see, that's an up for me too. Like, that's a huge up for me, because what as I was getting into the movie, I was like, this isn't a Batman movie. This is a superhero 7 or.
That's what I thought it was. A 7 was the same thing I thought of too.
Or like Training Day.
Yeah.
Or like, that's what it was. It was that vibe, but with Batman. And that I kind of, it was like Saw. It was literally Saw, fucking Training Day, and or Last Watch.
Yeah. And absolutely.
And 7, like, that was this movie just with Batman in it, and that's cool. That is really cool. But yeah, you are right. Like, this movie is dealing with so many dark concepts that it was very weighty.
Yeah.
I mean, even weighty, just there was so much going on that, like, the Riddler is in it throughout the whole entire movie, but it's like, okay, here's the Riddler again. Okay, now it's back to police procedural type stuff. Riddler again. Police procedurals, mobsters.
Yeah.
Selena Kyle. Riddler again. More police stuff.
And so, obviously, like, with the first act of this movie, primarily it focuses on, Batman being, this vigilante and kind of working with the cops, which we didn't see. This is something that I thought was unique that they explored in this, was rather than him just working with Jim Gordon, as he usually does in most movies that we've seen, this was him being fully exposed to the police force at all times.
Yeah, and even if they don't like it.
Even if they don't like it, hey, which is like Jim Gordon's like, this is my guy, he's here, like, I don't give a fuck, you know,
which
like,
I kind of find it weird, because like Jim Gordon, this is an earlier Jim Gordon, so he's a detective, obviously, but I don't know if he's exactly.
He has some clout.
He has some clout, but not enough.
Yeah.
But it's still like, he's like, but no, he's cool, he's with me.
Yeah. He's my +1.
And I found it funny that Jim Gordon always was like, Chief, buddy, hey.
Yeah. But and you know what? To be honest,
it was fine. It was fine.
I liked that because it was actually organic. I think that their conversation was organic, but Batman.
Calling Batman buddy.
Was this very like daunting character, and so you get this idea that he's kind of trying to figure himself out, and he's still being this vigilante. And I just, for me, there wasn't enough for me to really care about Robert Pattinson as Batman or as Bruce Wayne in this movie. Like,
I'll disagree. I'll disagree only because I did like him. I did like his portrayal as Batman. He got rid of the stupid gruff voice.
For a pouty voice.
For a pouty voice, sure, but but like you said, and we just touched on, the best part about this is that it literally is, and this is the one thing that the Dark Knight kind of did it a little bit, but it was more kind of cheating. Like it was a cheat code, like he did, like, I hacked everybody's cell phones. But this, he actually he's a detective, and that's his thing. He's brought it, like, and I think that's why, like, the police don't exactly trust him, but they kind of humor him, because they're like, well, you know, he's seeing things, he does see things that they're not seeing.
Yeah, in one particular scene that stood out to me into this, where I was like, oh, they're gonna like play a little bit more on the detective aspect of Batman, was after the first murder, when we obviously see, you know, the Riddler, who is AKA the Joker in, you know, pretty much the Dark Knight. They literally took that character and played him the same way.
He's more like, a little bit. I think we're like
he literally.
I think the Joker's like pure anarchy, where he's like pure terrorism. Like pure terrorism.
And so, okay, I agree with you on that. But anyway, going back to my point, when after the first murder, obviously Batman's in the crime scene. He's looking around at something, and he's looking for things, and he notices things on the ground, like blood splatters and things like that.
Yeah, and then the pattern of the blood splatter.
Yeah, and then, you know, the forensic scientists that are in there, they'll pick up on it and be like, oh, he noticed something, so they'll take pictures. So,
and they did that really well and subtly.
Exactly.
The forensic photographer, when he notices something, like, kind of
goes over there and takes a picture. So I love the fact that they leaned in on that detective aspect heavily, because I really don't think any Batman movie has ever really explored that the way that this one did. I think that's where this one succeeded.
The Nolan movies touched on it, touched it, but like
it was more like AI, like technology based.
It was a, hey, I'm rich, I have access to toys.
Exactly, yeah. You know? And so that's where I thought this movie did work. But other than that, again,
and especially when you're dealing with a character like the Riddler, that's hugely. I mean, that's how Riddler was introduced in the comics anyway.
Yes,
he literally comes to Gotham to challenge him. How do we feel about Paul Dano's Riddler?
So, you know, as we were talking about it a little bit, I just wasn't a huge fan. I mean, half this movie, his face is covered up, and I just don't like the aspect of that. Just let him be who he wants to be. Like, and again, with me,
yeah, again, that's the thing. Like, going down the dark, gritty thing. So, like, he's wearing combat,
and he was doing like this heavy breathing kind of thing, and like, again, to me, like, it was a play on what they did with Heath Ledger and the Joker. Like, he's basically filming what he's doing and showing it out. It's just...
Oh, yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that.
We live in a different age, so now it's like, oh, you can just post it a viral video. But, like, you know, when we saw The Dark Knight, that was Heath Ledger's... That was the Joker. Heath Ledger's Joker was doing the same thing. Like, filming videos of the people that he was going to kill or harm or whatever. and this just played on that same trope. And to me, I was like, well, like come up with something original because now I instantly have this. If you're a Batman fan and you watch this movie and you don't find that instant connection between what they're trying to do with the Riddler and what they did with the Joker, then like how it's right there in front of your face. And like I just don't shit on a character that was done really well by an actor that's really great. Rest in peace.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like Paul Dano's great. I mean,
he is a great actor.
He's a great actor,
and I think underutilized him.
You know, yeah. Yes and no. I think they did a really good job of like kind of going down the route, kind of like in the Arkham games, the way they did the Riddler in the Arkham games.
Yes.
Of being a very Saw, like, hey, solve this riddle, or this guy's gonna bite it.
Yeah.
So I did like that, and it was cool that like he was like going down that Saw route like completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I didn't think about the whole cell phone thing. That part. I mean, I get what you're saying about like making him a little bit kind of unhinged and very on the Joker.
That's what I'm saying, like unhinged.
I mean, it's fucking Warner Brothers. Like, hey, use the Joker.
They just can't figure it out. They're just like, hey, we found a formula that worked, and we just want to continue to use that formula, because whatever we're doing right now isn't working.
Which is what my original feelings going in was. I felt like I've seen this movie before. Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit more pleasantly surprised. I don't. Yeah, whatever. I'll save all this for monkeys. So we get the first act. Really, can't really remember the acts because there's so much shit going on.
Well, for me, I think the second act, at least my thought in this is when it comes into the fact that he kind of finds out that his family has some ties into this mob family, and he's really starting to get into the mob idea of like the fact that Gotham isn't what he thought Gotham was, and he's starting to realize that like Carmine Falcone, who's played by John Turturro, is basically the actual mayor. And that for some reason there's some rat there, and we're just trying to figure out whoever the rat is, because clearly
the Riddler somehow knows all this, but doesn't know that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
No, he does.
No, he doesn't. No, that was the whole thing. His whole thing was about everybody paying attention to that one orphan after the Thomas's mayoral announcement or candidacy announcement. He was in the choir. Because it's so fucking seven. Like if you have if you pay attention, it's so convoluted. It's so convoluted. But I mean, it does make sense. It just runs on for so long that you kind of forget. Like I think when like Selena and him go to find one of the cops, she just says his name, and I was like, I don't know who the fuck you're talking about right now. Who the fuck? What are you even talking about?
Right, like for whatever reason.
And then she had him on the construction site. I was like,
that guy. Yeah,
they showed him twice before.
Yeah, and I think that was a thing about this movie where I kind of got a little lost. Is for whatever reason there seemed to be a lot of major players. When Selena went into the club and Bruce at this point essentially gave her the contact. Yeah. And like, hang on, like focus on this person. These names are showing up. And it's like, I felt like it was something that like was meaningful and that's something that you should be paying attention to. But really, at the end of the movie, was kind of like lost. It was like, well, I mean, like what? Like this guy was important, but then he was just gone. It
was basically him seeing that all these important players in like the judicial system and the police system, the justice system in Totem are all dirty. That's what that's what the important.
And again, with this movie, I think. Where this doesn't work for me is that's an assumption because they're at this club you can't assume that because they're at this club that they're bad people.
Well, I mean, like that's like saying someone walking out of a brothel. You can't assume you went in there for sex.
Well, okay, but
I know
this was clearly not a brothel.
I'm just saying.
This was clearly not a brothel.
I'm just saying. I mean, it's an example. I'm just saying.
Okay, so Peter Sarsgaard
is walking out of a massage parlor and you thought he got a hand job.
Peter Sarsgaard's in this movie. Very minor role, right?
A very minor role. But a very good one.
Very good, because he's a great actor. And was it like justified that he was doing anything wrong by being in that club? Like he was just.
But he was though.
What was he doing? He was taking what is their thing? The drop.
Yeah, the drops. The drugs.
You're gonna like George Bush did fucking coke. Like
no, I know. Oh, no. Like I'm not saying like I get what you're saying, but it's a mob run. Like the whole thing was that club. That's the club within.
Sorry,
the club.
George W.
Yeah, it's like,
we called you out.
Yeah,
you heard it here.
I'll say sorry now. 10 years ago, I would never. 10 years ago, longer than that. Fuck, I'm old.
Times are a changing.
I know. Whatever. What the hell was I saying? But that's the thing. Selena points out that that's the club within the club. So that's like you can clearly only get in there if you have an in with the owners. The owners are fucking the Penguin and Falcone.
Which is understandable, but again, at the end of the day,
why does this keep playing like devil's advocate for like, oh yeah, we'll let the guy party?
Because just let them drink, dude. They're just there to hang out. Like I don't get it, you know. So for me, like I don't know, like I just thought that was a little weird, but I get where they were trying to go.
Yeah.
Because obviously they were just trying to expose this fact that in this, there's this criminal underground, and that most of, like you said, the officials for Gotham are part of this criminal underground. Yeah. And that's really, like, I feel like what the second act was. And so then...
So let's go into we introduce
into the second act. We get introduced to Selena Kyle.
How did you feel about Catwoman?
This is going to sound... I feel like every time I get in these kind of conversations, they're always like not what anybody wants to hear, and I'm really sorry if I offend anybody on the internet over the comments I'm about to make, but I'm just gonna throw this out there. Zoe Kravitz has to probably weigh like 110 pounds. I'm not saying that somebody that's like 110 pounds can't kick somebody's ass that weighs like fucking 240. Like, I'm not saying that's not plausible, but I'm just saying it's not very likely. So her just being this like kind of super badass, like I just didn't. It's not believable to me, and I think that with the character of Catwoman, the comics have always kind of sexualized her.
Oh yeah.
But she was also smart and intelligent. Where I think that they played more on this version of Selena Kyle as being like just more of like, I guess like what she initially was portrayed as is like a cat thief. You know what I mean? Like, well, cat burglar, cat thief, whatever. Yeah, cat burglar.
Which she kind of isn't even really.
She's really not.
She's just stealing money from the mob.
She's like Robin Hood. She's like a female Robin Hood.
Like Anne Hathaway's was more of a female Robin Hood. But like she's just trying to get money and get out of town.
I'm saying Catwoman in general is a character. Like in the comics, she's more like a Robin Hood.
Oh yeah, she's an anti-hero.
Yeah, she's an anti-hero. So
my thing with Zoe Kravitz, I like Zoe Kravitz a lot, and she did show her she was more agile. It wasn't so much she couldn't. That's not so much she could kick the shit out of someone who's like 200 pounds. She's just so agile that like. Probably getting 3 hits in before you can even swing for one.
But okay, so I can see that. But
here's my thing. My biggest thing is that Batman and Catwoman's. Yes, I know. Like it does get more serious in comics a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, they get married
here and there. Well, no, they didn't get married. They were going to get married, and they didn't.
That's true. That's right.
But they always kind of have this flirty back and forth thing. The problem is like every time. I mean, they put like. Catwoman and Batman on screen, it's like the audience knows they're in love and they're supposed to be together, so we're gonna just make them together. So like in this movie, when like they're like not even fucking flirting or anything, it's just then all of a sudden like she kisses him and I'm like, was that earned? Like was any part of this like I don't know. It's one of those things again with that Warner Brothers does with these movies. It goes, okay, the audience we're coming to see this know this, so we're just push it. Like
and I think that's a like you said, like, and I agree with that completely, because I think that's the difficulty here is like realistically they're trying to put this relationship onto you into this movie as something that you should care about, but if you but it's something that you should care about as if it happened off. Like there was all this stuff that happened off screen that you didn't see. So when it comes down to that situation, it falls flat because like I can't. If I'm not there to witness the character development, like on screen, why the fuck do I care?
Exactly, and what I
mean,
like all their interactions before, all their interactions before that happens, and she starts calling him honey and stuff.
Yeah,
with like Batman's super sus of her, and then fucking she's sort of like, can you? I'm just like. Thanks for helping, but I'm just trying to get my friend and get out of here. Like,
yeah, and then it's like at the end of it, it's like, oh, come with. Well, we'll get to that. Yeah, at the end of it, come with me, and then they take down their separate roads.
The goddamn 5-minute freaking motorcycle tag.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like reminiscence of Tombstone when they're riding the horses.
Yeah.
They're like. Just dumb.
Well, like, especially at that point, I was so done with the movie because it was 3 hours long, and there was parts even in throughout the film I was like, that could have been cut down. That could have been cut down. That could have been cut down. By the 5-minute long motorcycle tag thing they were doing, I was like, please,
yes,
fucking God, kill me now.
I was thinking the same thing. I straight up told us all, I was like, I'm not staying for end credits. If there's an end credit scene, I'm tired of
I'll Google it.
Absolutely. And so before we continue on, the one thing that I do think that this movie did really well, and it was very, very, very limited in this movie, the fight choreography was great.
It was.
I really enjoyed the fight choreography.
It was actually really good.
I mean, I think one of the best scenes and it was shown in the trailer, so it really when you saw it on the screen, it was kind of moot point because you'd already seen it so many times. I loved the scene where he's fighting in the hallway and the lights are out, and you could just see the lights being shot from the guns.
Yeah.
And he's just like beating everyone's ass in the hallway. I thought that was I thought that was done so well. And the opening fight scene in this movie, I was when this movie started, I was like, I'm not into it. I liked the narration aspect of it. I really did.
I hated that
because I felt like it was a little Sin City.
No, it was Rorschach.
It was Rorschach, but it was also Sin City. It was also Sin City. It was Mickey Morgan Sin City.
Oh no, true. No, yeah, true. Like, but it was definitely very Rorschach. Like, and it was very like the cities.
But you know what the thing?
When the film comes to choking, they'll look up at me.
But you know what?
You know what I mean?
I agree with you. But you know what? It worked for me because
I was like,
because like they were trying to do a gritty version of Batman, and I liked that. I liked the aspect that they were trying to do that.
Yeah, because you know what a gritty version of Batman is? Fucking Rorschach.
But that's true. That is true. But I liked it initially. I was like, okay, I'm kind of into this. Then it kind of got into the movie, and I was like, well, I'm really out of this. Then the first fight scene came in, and I was like, this is going to be great. This movie, for me, had a lot of ups and downs, and I think that that's really, at the end of the day, why I can't, speaking like fresh on it after we've just seen it, I'm really like at odds about how I feel about this movie. But
I know.
But if I'm speaking about it right now, I just wasn't a huge fan of it.
I'm kind of thinking of it like on the lines of like the way I thought about Eternals.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I would enjoy it much more if I can just watch it at home. Mm-hmm. Sitting down, forced to watch it for 3 hours, it just dragged for so long.
I just don't know if I could do another 3 hours of this movie. I'm gonna be honest.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like if you watch it at home and like you fucking go have a cigarette, like
which I wanted to do.
Yeah, let me check my taxes. And see while this movie's going on.
But one thing that I will say, before we got off on our tangent was. I really did enjoy the fight scenes in this movie. They were very limited, but I thought the fight scenes, the choreography in the fight scenes were done really well. And so kudos to Matt Reeves on that.
One fight I did want to touch on real quick is the one in the police precinct. It's not so much of a fight, but it's a little scuffle between him and the cops.
Yeah,
that was a great scene. Just the buddy friendship between
that was a great scene.
Jim and Batman.
Great scene.
Because he's clearly showing to the other cops that Batman respects him and will listen to him, and he thinks everybody thinks he's gonna read him the riot act, like, what are you doing? You're attacking cops. And then he's just like, hey, take this key. Yeah. You punch me in the face. And hey, there's that was really cool.
And I think that, like, what this movie explored really well,
buddy, hey,
especially during the second act of this movie, was the relationship that Batman and Jim Gordon have. Mm-hmm. And I think it was kind of a throwback to Detective Comics, you know, because that's where Batman was introduced. So I think it was really cool, because I think with all Batman movies, they try to explore that concept of the friendship that Jim Gordon and Batman have. But I think this one really nailed that,
except for the Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher. I think they never created a relationship.
Yeah. In those ones, it was kind of just like, hey, I'm going to put up this sign. I needed to go kick some ass and whatever. But I think this one, they did a really good job. And I think, Jeffrey Wright was great for the cast.
I thought it was a weird casting at first, but
great.
Because I mean, just other things I've seen him in, he's always like playing a scientist or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like everything I've ever seen him in. So I thought it was kind of weird casting, but no, he did great.
Yeah,
it's just funny they called everybody their buddy and shit.
But that's literally how I talk to my friends.
No, I know that's fine,
buddy. And so we get into the third act, right?
Well, first, like another thing about second act, we get Penguin.
Oh, we do get Penguin, which was I
don't know why they cast Colin Farrell, like just to put him under all that makeup. It doesn't look anything like Colin Farrell. They did a good job.
And the thing is, well, I mean, because he's a good actor.
No, he's a great actor.
So I think he played that role well. Before we move on to the third act, the Batmobile looked fucking awesome too.
Yeah. Oh,
I really liked the Batmobile.
It did. And that called back to like early Detective Comics where he did just kind of just ride like a roadster. Like it wasn't some crazy tricked out thing. Mm-hmm. It was just basically a fucking Chevy. Mm-hmm. The one thing that sucks when it was introduced, it was kind of stupid because again, things that could have been cut down. It's like a 5-minute scene of him revving up the Batmobile. And then he goes, and then he starts running. And I was like, I don't know.
I thought the same thing.
Was that an editing error, or did it stall?
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, oh, he like set this whole thing because like you could clearly see this concept that he's building this thing in the Batcave, right? And so I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh shit, like he built this thing and now it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, it just stalled, and I was like, oh, maybe this will be like that one moment where we finally get like a kick in the pants, like, we get to laugh a little bit.
Yeah.
So, like, I was actually laughing about it, and then I was like, oh, maybe that wasn't supposed to happen? Like, what's going on?
It cuts all the mobsters start running, like,
yeah, and it's like, because he just inched forward, like, he just, like, took it out of neutral.
Yeah.
You know, like, I thought that was really silly, too.
It's stalling again.
Yeah. But
that was weird. Like I figured he'd like drive out real fast and but yeah, whatever.
But the
he just got shot at, and his first thought is like, I'm gonna go get in my car and like, rev it up.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But the chase scene was good.
And it was cool that it was a chase scene throughout like tons of traffic.
Yeah,
because that's something you never really see.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, you know, what's funny because you bring that up because I was thinking about that too. Because if you look at like obviously The Dark Knight, which is I think one of the best Batman films ever made. It is the best Batman film ever made. You know, the scene where they flip over the 18-wheeler, I guess is what you were.
Oh yeah, in the tunnel.
Again, it's like fuck what everybody cleared out. Mm-hmm. Like the cops are able to clear everybody out. Like this is literally this was cool to see like rush hour traffic and like. You know, there was obviously like a couple scenes where they were trying to get to where they needed to go. And it was just them together,
yeah.
But then it was like,
or I think there was one where like Penguin's stuck in between like two 18-wheelers and they're like, and he's like trying to like, where are you gonna go, bro?
Yeah, and I thought that was done really well, and then for him, you know, I got you, and he just comes out and it's like shit, like, and it was like that was a great scene, but. You know, for me, again, like, I don't know, like, this movie just, to me, overall, like...
There was so much going on. That, like,
it was too much going on, yeah.
Like, I mean, and Keith Colin Farrell had said, like, he's like, if you're excited to see me as Penguin in this movie, like, don't be excited. Like, I'm in it for, like, 5 minutes. And he's actually in it for a lot longer.
He's in it for way longer than 5 minutes.
I know, but that's what he had said before the movie came out. So yeah, we'll get in the third act. We haven't really been doing this in an act structure. We've kind of been, but we're trying to. We're trying to we're just trying to minimize just ranting about dumb shit.
Normally we take notes and we plan this out a little bit or as best as we can, and this one's obviously going to be a little bit different because
not normally. We've started getting better at doing that.
Well, yes, that's true. That's what we've been working on. So this one's going to be a little bit different. So coming into the third act,
just a first reaction type.
Yeah, and I would love to continue to do movies this way, especially movies that we've seen straight out of the theater, because I think this is really fun. It leads to a more organic conversation about.
This is a conversation we have off camera.
This is the conversation we have off camera. So, getting in the third act of this movie, I mean, so basically now at this point, Batman knows that
his plan has come to fruition.
And his family's been involved in some mob-related stuff, maybe not, but he doesn't completely know their involvement in it, and now he's trying to. This is where I thought that they tried to introduce more of a Bruce Wayne element into this movie rather than a Batman element. Obviously, having him show up at the club as Bruce Wayne rather than him just beating up Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Do you think that was Tweedledee and Tweedledum?
It was totally Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
No. I just want to get your take on that because I kept thinking that, and I was waiting for someone just to say, "Hey, Tweedle," or because I think in the comics they are the Tweedle twins.
They're the Tweedle twins. Yeah. So and it was funny because I actually told us all when the first guy opens the door at the first scene, he goes, "You know who I am?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he shuts the door and he opens it up, and then the identical twin shows up, and I was like, "That's Tweedledee and Tweedledum. It's a playoff of Atlan." She was like, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about." I was like, "Mad Hatter."
Well, cool. At least we're on the same.
Yes, we are. So,
because that was my first line. I was like, "That's totally Tweedledee and Tweedledum." That's
cool. So, obviously, then he comes back in and he's trying to do more of his Bruce Wayne element, and again, I think, Batman's such a hard character to tackle, especially nowadays because the popularity that comic book movies have right now, or comic book influences on movies have had right now, and fan expectation is really high, so it's really hard to tackle a character in general, but let alone a character like Batman, because the dichotomy between Bruce Wayne and Batman is so unique in the comic books. To bring that to the cinema is just really difficult.
It is. And honestly, quite honestly, it goes for DC movies, DC characters across the board, and that's why I kind of want to say this from Monkeys, but I'll just do it now. I think it's why Marvel's found more success than DC. It's because DC characters may be a little bit more recognizable, but telling their stories is a lot harder.
Yes,
because
they're more complex.
I don't want to say more complex.
I think they're more complex. No, especially Batman.
I was saying it's what it is. They always lean on the dichotomy between this mask.
Okay.
The hero.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the thing they always lean on too hard. Whereas Marvel, even in the comics and very much so obviously in the movies, there is no I'm this and this.
Yeah.
I have to. I mean, other than Peter Parker and a couple other characters like Daredevil and a few other characters, you don't have to lean on that too hard. Whereas DC and it's also a studio thing. Comics, you pull it off fine. But it's a studio movie making thing where Warner Brothers has always leaned so heavily on that as part of what makes the characters compelling. Which, don't get me wrong, it does make them compelling. But when you've now made 10 movies of this specific character, and you lean on that. Well, even though this is the first one, I feel like they didn't lean on that too much. This is a Batman movie through and through. I think it's kind of great that it's called The Batman. It's a Batman movie through and through. You get very little Bruce Wayne in this.
Yes.
And really, the only times you really get Bruce Wayne, it's when he found out some new information about his family, and this was another cool. It was another. I'm sorry. One of the first times where it didn't paint Thomas Wayne as a saint.
Yeah, and I like that. Cool. I like that too. Yeah, I
and I think even Falcone says I almost wanted to say something like, the world's not black and white. Sometimes good people have to do a bad thing. And then Alfred then kind of tells the story. Well, who knows which version's the actual correct story, but he tells the story in a different way that makes Bruce go like, okay, maybe he's not that guy, just bad.
Yeah, and that's the thing I think that's kind of interesting about when you're doing like a movie based on a character like Batman, because he has so much complexities that they're, I think the character of Batman, when you really analyze the character, he really has this idea of what he views as like black and white, right?
Oh, yeah.
But realistically, as you view his character through comic book storylines, he really always works in the gray.
Yeah.
And so...
Well, it's like his no-killing rule.
Exactly.
He fucked up all those dudes in a dark alleyway who all were fucking wielding machine guns. One of those bullets hit someone.
Yeah. And so I think that, but when you have those complexities, it's like
I can't remember. It's like the funny Batman videos. You're like, no, he's just sleeping.
Yeah. But
you literally just killed that guy.
And I think, to your point though, like DC, I think kind of realistically, when it comes to creating these characters and putting them on, like in cinema and like putting them on the screen, where they fucked up is because DC Comics creates such a big dichotomy between characters. You have Clark Kent, then you have Superman, you have Bruce Wayne, and you have Batman. So it's like you're creating these two separate personas and you're making them so different in the comics that when you have to put that on the screen, when you have to put that into cinema, it's like it's difficult to encapsulate the dichotomy between those characters in such a small
and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And
that's probably why this movie was 3 hours.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Like,
that you
can tell those kind of stories. You can tell those kind of stories, and really, you can really stretch that out and stuff in comic books because you're talking about like once a month releases, sometimes 5-monthly releases.
Yeah.
But then, to lean so heavily on that in a film, it just doesn't work, and that's why the DCU has sort of failed, because whereas the MCU is still fucking running hard and strong.
Thor is Thor.
Because Thor is Thor. I am Iron Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Steve Rogers is Captain America. The Hulk hasn't had a fucking solo movie, but other than the Incredible Hulk, which is not bad. Not bad. I don't hear any shit talking on it. The Guardians of the Galaxy are the Guardians of the Galaxy. Black Panther is Black Panther. Like there's none of this like. Oh, I'm up. Okay, other than Spider-Man.
Yeah, but other than Spider-Man, there's really been no dichotomy between like trying to separate these identities, and that's where I think the DC.
And I think it's easy. And I think why it always works with Spider-Man, and it never really feels that bad, is because it's. I mean, barring like the later Tobey Maguire movies, because he's a kid, so it's not like he has to go to work.
Yeah,
he just has to go to school, and everybody knows that kids of younger age can sleep less. So whatever.
Yeah, he's just out doing whatever kids do.
Actually, although I learned recently, this is completely fucking off topic. We might just edit it out.
No, let's keep it on.
But did you know that like actually when you're younger, you actually do need more sleep than you actually need less sleep over your lifespan as you go on. As you get older, your body needs less sleep.
That's an interesting factoid because I actually feel the opposite.
I know, everybody does, but apparently that's
the more you know.
Scientifically, that's a fact.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, like we said, getting in the third act. I mean, again, with
the Riddler's plan comes to fruition.
It comes into fruition. Then we actually get to see Paul Dano as Paul Dano, right? And then.
And he always nails it. He's a
great actor. He's a great actor.
There will be blood,
and he did it. He did a fantastic job in this movie. I really do think. I think that they underutilized him by covering him up with a mask the entire time. I just didn't think it was fair.
And making him very like the Blair Witch Project, like holding the phone so close up to his face.
And
the cool thing I did really like about the sort of his end game. I guess as you would call it. When he blows up the
water
banks, which why would you ever build that? Fucking levy it out. Like, why would you ever build a giant wall that's covering water? Because
I'll tell you why. So that Led Zeppelin could write a song called "When the Levee Breaks."
Okay.
Great song, by the way.
So the entire fucking city's flooded, and he had been on like QAnon-esque.
Yes.
Conspiracy board.
Yeah. That's what we're saying.
And basically not hired, but just basically got these people so riled up that they literally dressed like them. Like it was a cool play on all the especially the Schumacher movies where like they always had henchmen that dress like them.
Yes.
Because they come in dressed like the Riddler to fucking basically massacre like Columbine. But sorry, I shouldn't say that, but massacre these people trying to because they go into what's essentially Madison Square Garden.
Well, they're cronies. They're cronies that dress like the person that they're following.
Yeah, they're doomsday preppers and they're like doomsday preppers and shit. But yeah, it was like because it was funny. There was one part in the when I saw the trailer, I was like, it looked like Batman was fighting some military looking types.
Yes,
I didn't see that they were wearing the Riddler mask too, but I was like, oh, that's weird. Like maybe there's another scene, but that seems like there's a lot going on then. But and it can't be like Riddler's henchmen because why would he have henchmen? Mm-hmm. But it was just kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, and then even one thing that's good to point out that you said like with that, if you look at when they're analyzing his video, there's actually comments on the video that tell him you can buy this mask at the Army Navy surplus, and like you can buy this coat, and like.
And then, of course, Batman being the world's greatest detective notices that too.
And so I thought that was really cleverly done too.
I was too busy looking at the screen names. Because I figured
screen names are important.
No, because I figured there'd be like an Easter egg or something.
Well, I'm sure there was.
Yeah, but the one thing I did notice, there was definitely an XX something XX.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I thought it was funny.
Shout out to the days, dude.
Yeah, shout out to the days, dude.
So, in the third act, I think the thing that I thought was silly with this, like, obviously was, he set up these bombs around these water banks. Ain't no fucking city gonna flood that fast. Like, I'm just like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, I mean, like, it's just, then they're all...
I don't know, though.
They're all stuck in
Madison Square Garden
and
real high.
I know, but like, I mean, come on.
But that's also terrible fucking evacuation plan. Go to the place that is literally a hole.
Like in the center of a city. Like, I just like It wasn't
a great plan.
It wasn't a great plan. It was a little cheesy, but I get what they were trying to do because that's kind of again like to me it's a trope that with Batman movies that they try to explore is this idea of like destroying Gotham.
It's always destroy Gotham.
It's always destroy Gotham. It's like, man, you don't see outside of your city at all. Like, we're just gonna take this. It's like destroying San Francisco or something. You know what I mean? Like, big picture. Like, what's your point?
Yeah,
it just to me it was like again tired. It was to me it was like, oh, you're taking Bane's concept in The Dark Knight Rises and you're trying to do the same thing. And Ra's al Ghul's in Batman Begins. Same thing. Just trying to do the same thing.
This is a good enough transition as any to go into our monkeys.
I'm
gonna go first this time. I want to.
But before we do that, I do want to shout out to Andy Serkis, who I thought.
Oh yeah, we haven't talked about Alfred at all.
Who I would like to say, not in it much, but Andy Serkis. I was not a huge fan, and you will know, of Venom Let There Be Carnage. Maybe directing isn't his primary thing to do, but
his primary thing to do is motion capture.
Well, obviously, but I also want to say, like, I thought he did a great job as Alfred. I really felt his character was very strong.
And to with that, even though it doesn't really involve Alfred, it does, but it doesn't. But when he gets blown up, he doesn't get killed. But when he gets blown up,
spoilers.
The way they played that was really cool. Like Batman driving, trying to call him.
Yes, that was great.
And then he finally gets hold of the other servant.
Yeah.
And it says, sorry, it happened an hour ago.
And
because you're watching it in like almost in real time. Like you think you're watching it in real time. He's driving. And then Alfred gets the bomb and opens it, blah, 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 blah. But then finally like the maid or the other servant picks up and says, I'm sorry, Mr. Wayne, that happened an hour ago.
Yeah. And that was a great
that was really well played.
So shout out to Andy Serkis in this. Yay. Alfred, you did a good job. So, all right, 12 Monkeys. You want to dive into it first. That's a rarity.
It was not a rarity.
You saw it here first.
I've tried to go first. You forced me to go second sometimes. Anyway, so I'm going to give it an 8 out of 12.
Okay.
8 out of 12. I've said it before. My downs are only that it was too long, far too long. So much of it could have been cut down. I did like the underworld detective aspect of it. I mean, again, this movie is straight up like Saw, Training Day, or Last Watch, or so one of those kind of like cop movies. What was the other one I said? Seven. Like it's literally like that vibe and that sort of that feel, that tone, and I love that. Like I love old kind of the late '90s cop movies or cop drama movies and thrillers
very
like
film
that.
Noir.
Very film noir, like the David Lynchian type films and stuff like that. The other thing that was a down, and again, this kind of goes into it being 3 hours long, was the soundtrack. Like there's a such thing as setting a mood, but you know what? The mood was sleepy.
Yeah,
it was like listening to rain. Like it was good music. It was just sitting in like if I could watch it again, just like where I could do something else because the most of the music was very quiet, very very Enya, very it's just like I even in the first like half an hour, I found myself going, "Oh shit,
yeah,
am I gonna fall asleep?"
Yeah, no, I mean,
and it wasn't that the movie was boring. It was just so much. There were times that it was boring because there were certain scenes that were just dragged out a little bit too long. I think this movie could have been easily cut down to about 2:15.
Yeah,
with certain scenes cut down. I mean, hell, get rid of that goddamn motorcycle fucking race thing.
Yeah, that was.
It's them fucking chase. They're playing car tag.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a dumb scene.
And cut down. He doesn't need to rev up his car for 5 minutes to literally just go. So little things like that. Like it's just, I'm always kind of a stickler on that when I notice something's lingering too long. Even though I do that a lot on these videos.
You don't say.
Yeah, I know. But other than that, I thought Paul Dano's Riddler was really good. I do agree with you. Like he's a little bit underutilized, but the way he portrayed it was unique and ultimately worked for me. I love the Saw franchise. I fucking love. So going that route was like a perfect way to go, and that's the way the Arkham games went. So it works. The mob stuff was interesting, and like the underworld, like the dirty money and all that stuff was interesting and compelling. Selena Kyle it's just sort of forced. It just felt forced. I love Zoe Kravitz, and I think their chemistry worked, but it was just forced. Lastly, I'm not even. The Penguin was fine, but he's in the movie for like 10 minutes max total.
Yeah.
But fuck, good. I mean, Colin Farrell. I don't know how you're such a goddamn good actor being that good looking. Even though you're made up like the Penguin the entire movie, so I don't know, whatever. And then Robert Pattinson's Batman. I thought he did really well. You're right, he's a little mopey, but I feel like story-wise that works.
Okay.
So, anyways, your turn.
Yeah, so I'm going to give... Oh, man. You know what? Initially, I was going to give this a 6 out of 12, but I'm going to give this a 7 out of 12 because... And the reason why is because one thing that did actually work into this movie that I think this movie explored more than any other Batman movie was the criminal underworld.
Yeah.
I think this is the first movie that's actually explored that. And if you really look at Batman comics... That is a really big part of Batman comics.
Vowels.
Exactly. So, like, thinking about it, like, in hindsight right now, as we're having this conversation, that's why, like, I actually really enjoyed doing this after we saw the movie, is to really have a fresh take on it as we're talking about it. I really didn't think about that, but you brought up a really good point. This really does explore the criminal underground. This movie does that really well.
And the detective aspects.
Yeah, and the detective aspects. Like, those are things that I really... Like, the detective aspects, I enjoyed a lot from the beginning anyway, because it was very present that they were going to make that, like, a forefront for this movie.
Yeah.
But the criminal underground aspect, I didn't really think about that too much until you brought it up, and they really explored that in this movie, and I actually really like that. So that's going to bump it up one more for me. Other than that, Zoe Kravitz, Robert Pattinson's interactions completely forced. Didn't like it. Not organic at all. I just was not a huge fan of it. I think for me, where this movie worked. Fight scenes were great. Detective aspects were great. They didn't explore it enough to me. I think there was a lot of dead time in this movie that just didn't need to be there. And I think that's really where I got lost on liking this movie. They brought in a bunch of fantastic actors that really played their roles really well. I just don't think the direction was right. We were touching on this a little bit before we filmed today, that maybe this is the reason why Ben Affleck stepped out of this movie. Because initially we thought that maybe, the initial idea was that Ben Affleck was going to direct the Batman. And then Matt Reeves was brought in, and then we're assuming that they had a disagreement, and that's where...
That's
my assumption.
My vague assumption and recollection.
Vague assumption and recollection, yeah. We've also been drinking, so...
And also, I will read a headline article and then
exactly. And be like, that's it. That's what it is. Well, synopsis.
This is a total weird aside, but I'll read like the first paragraph, and then because the fucking way internet fucking websites work, like news sites work, then an ad pops up and I fucking frozen out of my goddamn computer or phone.
You just rabbit hole. So,
or that dude. There's that. Yeah.
I rabbit hole.
No, I'm more like pop-up ads that like freeze the entire website because this fucking HTML ad shot over here, and it's a video, so it's freezing everything, so I can't even stop the video because it's frozen the entire fucking. Sorry, it drives me insane.
So
it's like when I see an article, like when I'm like on like Yahoo News, I'm like, oh, I just want to read that article, but no, it's a fucking video. I don't want to watch a goddamn video. I want to read the goddamn article.
So for me, I agree with you. I agree with you on that. I agree with you.
And this will be on our next podcast. Things old men get angry at.
Yes. Oh shit, we're getting old.
I know.
But so and the one thing that I don't like about, again, I was talking about earlier, I just think they try to make it too artistic. I like to see I like the concept of trying to make it realistic. Like, I love that, Batman has this, plating rather than, a giant suit. I really liked the way that they did the mask, how he had, a nose cover that was separate, I loved that.
Okay.
It was more realistic to me. I love those concepts. But, you don't need to make it too realistic. I still want to have some comic book aspects.
Yeah, you want to have a say.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
For sure I get that.
And that's where... Again, for me, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 12, but I'm just going to throw this out there. This movie it fell flat for me. It wasn't my favorite. And so, before we wrap this up, why don't we touch on what we think is, let's go.
You literally took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say before we wrap up. That's why I was doing this.
Okay, so then you were already wrapped up. Let's do top 3. Our top 3.
Batman
movies of all time.
Ooh, Batman movies.
Yeah.
Oh. Ooh.
Well, we're doing the Batman.
I have not put any thought into this whatsoever.
So that's why it's great. Let's do it.
Just off the cuff. Ooh.
You want me to go first?
The Dark Knight. I gotta say The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight.
I want to be fucking edgy. I want to be edgy and say something else. But
The Dark Knight is the best one. We don't have to go into why it's the best one. Dark Knight.
Batman vs Superman.
Really?
Because it's a fucking Batman movie, and it's fuck you. It's good.
I mean,
fuck you. It's good.
Ben Affleck is.
He's my favorite Batman.
He's my favorite Batman too. So
It's a shame we only got so little of it.
Yes.
And then Batman Returns, number 3.
Okay. Batman Returns is with Val Kilmer?
No, that's Michael Keaton.
Okay, that's the second. That's with the Penguin, Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn, that's good. I'm gonna go.
It's a Christmas movie. It's fucking so Tim Burton. I think it's just slightly better than the first one.
Okay. So obviously, The Dark Knight, number 1.
Yeah. I always want to say Dark Knight Rises.
I'm gonna go. Dark Knight Rises is definitely up there. Is not up there at all. I'm gonna go. Fuck. I guess like I'm a huge Nolanverse fan. Because I'm gonna definitely go with Batman Begins.
Really?
Number 2. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
and
wow.
then I am going to go with Tim Burton's Batman.
The original.
Yeah, I loved it as a kid. Like I loved it growing up. Like I thought Jack Nicholson did. I mean, before we had Heath Ledger, like nobody had ever done the Joker like Jack Nicholson did, and
Cesar Romero.
That not the way that Jack Nicholson did. But that end scene in that movie, you know, Batman doesn't kill, and he did, and
he did.
It was very impactful.
How about favorite Batman?
Batman. Okay, all right. Favorite Batman. All right, we're gonna do a little off the rails thing.
And then I have one more little thing to do before we're done.
I'm gonna go with Ben Affleck's number 1. Again, agree with you. Short screen time. It sucks. I would love to see him do so much more because I thought he played the dichotomy between Bruce Wayne and Batman so well. One of my personal favorites was Val Kilmer. I'm gonna put it second. I love Val Kilmer.
Okay.
And then Michael Keaton, number 3 for sure for me.
Obviously, Batfleck, number 1, all day, every day. Number 2, Michael Keaton. Number 3, Adam West.
Oh damn!
I'm gonna put Adam West at 3. Oh, you know, it's just because I grew up with the '60s Batman show.
And you know what? I ain't even mad at you.
I would watch hours of that shit. I still I'll throw it on, and every now and then it's like
nothing but love for you, Adam West. Rest in peace, man. You I mean, grew up with that shit.
Yeah. So last thing before we're done, who do you think it was in the other cell? So the scene in the other movie. This wasn't a post-credit scene because we would not stay for one.
Yes. I'm going to assume it was the Joker.
Not Two-Face?
No, that's what you said. And
I know.
So we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, it didn't have a good enough laugh to be the Joker, but it did look like there was just one, a mangle.
Yeah. No.
I'm
curious to know. Here's the one thing. If they decide to do another movie in this franchise, which they probably will, I hope that they could find better direction on how to take this franchise.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully,
but
they take tip from our podcast, and just make it better.
But you know what? Here's a good point to what you're saying as why it might be Two-Face, because the riddle that he asked the Riddler when they were in the cell was something in regards to like friends. Like I don't know the riddle off the top of my head. And basically comes down to having a friend, right? Yeah. So if he's Two-Face, he has a friend. His friend is himself. It's a dichotomy between his
and also he.
So that's
and also he said Gotham does love a comeback story.
Yeah.
Harvey Dent. So I don't know. It could go either way. I prefer it to be Two-Face.
Hey, let us know who you think it might be. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We definitely enjoyed this. I mean, I
enjoyed filming this more.
I enjoyed, absolutely, 100%. But I mean, I definitely want to continue to. I love this aspect of being able to record right after we saw something. It's really fresh in our minds, and I think this is the most organic we can be when having a conversation with doing the podcast.
And to be fair, even if we did have like tomorrow or another day to like write down notes, this movie was such a convoluted thing. It was just a stew.
Mess.
I wouldn't say it's a mess. It was a stew. There was just so much going on that I don't think I could ever like actually break crap down.
But that being said, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment on this video here. And we hope you all have had a good night. We hope you enjoy the movie. If you don't enjoy the movie, that's okay, because we didn't either.
I enjoyed it a little bit.
And that being said, I'm just going to let you know right now that I'm not wearing hockey pads.
Same bat time, same bat channel.